Previously on podcast about Pretense.
Hold me closer, Tony Danza.
I swear, next time I'm just gonna lock him in a closet.
The next time I appear drunk on this show will be the last time on the show.
Well, we can't have that, Iyaz. we already did one show without you, and you know it was lonesome. Eric and I soldiered on. Actually, it was one of our better ones. No, it was okay.
I'm Iyaz Akhtar.
I'm Jonathan Strickland.
And I'm Eric Sandine.
And together, we form a loving trio who will give you compassion and support whenever you least expect it.
Exactly. So, like, if you need a friend, we'll be there.
So, previously, last week, Iyaz did not appear on Podcast Without Pretense. He stabbed us in the back while looking us in the eye.
I stabbed you in the face. Okay.
Yeah. He's behind our backs. He stabbed us in the face. One of the two. Anyway, he appeared on Night Attack, the show with Brian Brushwood and Justin Robert Young, and occasionally other crazy people as well. So, Iyaz, why don't you tell us what your experience was like appearing on that, that very polished show?
It was very nice. Jury and Schwood were very nice. And also, Ali Spagnolo, amazing. Congrats to Ali on her deal with the
Fandango.
Fandango, thank you. And it reminded me of the old days of podcasting, like 5 years ago. Like having a very hot room and podcasting.
There was a lot of talk about licking assholes on that show. More so than I had anticipated.
Yes, that was an ad for Squarespace.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
About dogs.
Yeah. Okay. I think the lesson we all take from that is that they get ads.
We're gonna have ads soon because seriously,
are
that show, and I love you guys at Night Attack. We do a different show, and
we do.
Words.
Yeah, it's good for you to appear inebriated and probably exhausted. I would imagine you relocated from coast to coast this past weekend, right?
Okay, so yes, to all of those things. Saturday I moved to the East Coast, and yes, I'm inebriated, and I apologize. And this show's gonna be awesome because I'm drunk. So, yay. Also, I'm gonna defer a lot.
I can tell.
Eric, what do you think? So,
what do I
don't
think?
even know. Was there a question I asked besides
I'm
what
very confused.
I said that's what I'm gonna do all episode long. It's like, Eric, what do you think?
Oh, gotcha.
All right.
So we'll ask Iyaz questions like, what was your moving experience like? Eric, what do you think?
Oh, yeah. We're going to abuse this for a long time until we stop.
Yeah. And by we, Iyaz means himself.
Yeah.
So normally on this show, one of the things we like to do is watch terrible movies. I don't know that we like to do it. We do it. Where we'll watch terrible movies and find out how far we can get without any distractions. But this week, I don't think any of us managed to actually see the movie, which is Flying Devils. So we're going to push that to next week. So just hold on to your horses because we're going to watch this epic film. And if you do a search for the Flying Devils and you find a 1933 movie, that's not the one we're looking at.
That one.
We're watching the 1985 foreign film about acrobats and learning through hardship and stuff. So stay tuned because we will end up seeing that movie. It'll just be for the show for next week, assuming we have one. Yeah, because you never know with us. So first of all, Iyaz, you told me that even though you had not seen the movie, you had a lot to talk about. Is that true, or was that before you started drinking?
Or is he just going to defer to me?
Yes. I've got a lot to talk about. Eric, take it away.
It's true before and after. The move has been really big. A lot of different changes here. Buying furniture is a bitch, and
Yeah.
I need a mic because this thing sucks.
That's what you're using right now?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, no, your audio quality definitely has well, I don't know. You always had kind of a weird connection, so it's sort of a lateral move, really.
Let me
I
take
will
this microphone and rub it on my shoulder.
Thanks. This isn't
Yeah,
a fucking ASMR video, man. Come on.
Here's the deal. So, like, in Time Warner Cable, I get 100 down and 5 up. 5 up. It's
But you
terrible.
get 100 down.
In theory, yeah.
I
And
thought I thought originally you said that your top was going to be 30.
yeah,
30 down, 5 up.
30 would have been like $50 a month, but
Mhm.
100 was 65. So I switched up to that.
Okay.
Hmm?
Are you getting the
that's it.
100 just by stealing
Nope.
other people's bandwidth?
No, I'm
Just
like
siphoning it
I'm
off.
getting like on my test I'm getting 20 down. So like 20 down is bullshit, but like it's better than it could be.
So if you had the 30 down, you'd probably be getting closer to like 7.
Exactly. So like
Uh,
on the town, like I you guys look great, and also like the upload speed will always max out at 5. At 5.
yeah. Well, and I also notice you have a glorious background behind you of a door.
Yeah.
I don't want you to tell us what's behind that door. I would rather we all come up with our own theories as to what is behind that door.
Theorize, folks.
Eric, do you have a theory for what is behind the door that is behind Iyaz? No? Eric, are you even there? I guess not. All right. Maybe I've frozen.
Wow. So Jonathan, how are
Yeah.
things?
Things are good. Did Eric disappear?
I don't know.
Okay, well, I assume so. All right, here's my thing. My guess is that behind you is a goat, but that's because I watched a lot of game shows when I was a kid, and behind the door
Well,
was.
I have door number 1.
Oh, okay.
And 2, and then 3.
Oh, so one of them may have a goat, and the
Yeah,
other,
mine
like
have a
one might have a car.
Mhm.
Yeah, and then the other one, I don't know, maybe a bathroom.
Maybe a booby prize.
Oh, right. So the goat's not a booby prize?
No,
Are
a
you like,
goat
no,
is
man,
a lawnmower, dude.
you can get some fucking use out of a goat. To answer your question, I am exhausted, dude. It's been a mentally draining week already, and it's gonna continue to be so, in a good way. But it's very demanding. So this week I got to shoot a web series video pilot for my work, for How Stuff Works, which was exciting. But it was one of those things that had a really rapid turnaround where we had meetings on Monday. I scripted out the pilot episode. We shot it this morning, and now it's being edited and it'll be turned around. There'll probably be an early cut for people to look at maybe Thursday morning. So it's super fast turnaround. But I was very happy with how it turned out. But that's on top of all the other videos and podcasts that I need to record this week. So it's been a little on the hectic side. But again, I'm not complaining. I'm just a little tired. So
Speaking of cuts,
yeah,
how's your head? I heard you had a nick on your bald head there, buddy.
Yeah, it was just a little tiny nick. It's actually it's way back here in behind, so I can't really show it off. But yeah, it was just from shaving, and I had a little bump on my head. And as I was shaving with a brand new razor, I nicked the bump. And anyone who's ever shaved their head and cut themselves, or just had a cut on their head somewhere, you know that it bleeds like crazy. You got a lot of capillaries really close to the surface. It'll just start bleeding, and it looks way worse than it is. Plus, I was in the shower, so the water was making it look worse than it was. But yeah, I had a little brief psycho shower moment. And it was mostly irritating to me because I wasn't sure if I was going to do some preliminary shooting on Monday. That's when I was shaving for the whole web series pilot thing. I wasn't sure if I was going to have to shoot on Monday. And so my main concern was I don't want to get any blood on my clothing. And so I had to figure out, like, it's tough because it was right behind my head. My wife was out of town. So trying to find the spot and put a band-aid over it when you can't see what you're doing is not easy. So
Yeah, so like
that was
I'm preparing for my own inevitable bald head because I'm thinning and I'm getting old. Like Jonathan, and
yeah.
I need tips. How do you like the first day you did that? You decided I'm gonna shave my head,
Yeah.
and then I'm gonna go into work tomorrow.
Yeah.
How did you tell yourself I'm gonna do this?
Have I not told this story on this show before? So
I don't know.
it was I can tell. Yeah, you're drunk. You don't know. Eric, do you know if I've told this story on the show before?
I don't think I've heard it before, so go ahead.
By the way,
All right.
I also have
Well,
a
then-
really shitty memory. Even if I was sober, I wouldn't fucking remember. So anyway.
Well, Eric says he doesn't remember either. So if I start telling the story and it sounds amazingly familiar, then we'll know. And of course, our 3 listeners will let us know too. But anyway, here's the deal. So it was a Wednesday when I had decided that I was finally going to shave my head. I'd been talking about it for probably more than a year because my hair had been thinning ever since I was a teenager. My hair had started thinning, but it hadn't reached a point where it was really noticeable until I was in, like 20, 21. Actually, I guess by then I was maybe 22. So at that point, I was just, my self-esteem was starting to really take a hit, particularly when people began to try and be helpful, where they would suggest like, hey, have you ever thought about like trying Rogaine? I'm like, dude, I was actually feeling okay about myself until everyone else started bringing this up. And that's when I really, I was like, okay, I didn't care until everyone else cared. And now I got to do something about this because I can't take this. So on a Wednesday, I got home from work and my wife, at that time, she had a job where she was working evenings. She didn't get off work till like 10 p.m. So I got home and I'm just sort of staring at my reflection in the mirror, feeling really down about myself. And I decide this is probably going to be the day. And I didn't have any kind of electric trimmers or anything. When I shaved my face, I just used a regular, safety razor. That's all. So I grabbed a hunk of hair in one hand and I grabbed a pair of scissors in the other. And I held the scissors up to my hair and I was kind of trying to steel my courage because I was thinking, if this goes poorly, if it turns out I have a terrible misshapen head, I'm going to be kind of stuck for a while. Plus, in the long run, I have no idea what I'm going to do. But I ended up like, am I really going to do it? Am I really going to do it? And then I went ahead and took the plunge, cut the first big hunk of hair off, and just started hacking at my hair. And, when you don't have those electric shears, and you're just using regular scissors and you're trying to get as close as you can before you switch over to a razor, you cannot get very close. So that meant that by the time I finally got to a point where I could switch to a razor, I could only go like maybe a quarter of an inch before I had to rinse the razor out because it would just get completely clogged by hair. So this means the whole process is taking forever. And my wife gives me a call probably around 9:30, 9:45 just to check in before she quits for the day and heads home. Because sometimes, I would end up having to go to bed before she could even get home. We wouldn't see each other. So she calls me. And at that point, I looked like a dog with the mange. I had little patches of hair here, little patches of hair here, because I would get bored going after the same spot. So I'd switch to a different spot. And so at this point, I just have this horrible, like, I look like I'm a extra from Mad Max or something. Like I'm the guy from the Fallout series who barely survived the nuclear wasteland. And Becca calls me up. I pick up the phone and I say, "Hey there, sweetheart. Guess what I did without skipping a beat?" She says, "You shaved your head?" And I was totally flabbergasted. All of my thunder was stolen. I was so excited that I was going to surprise her because I had been talking about this for a year, and her response was always, you don't have the courage to shave your head. And she guessed it right away, like not even a moment's hesitation. which first got me paranoid that perhaps she had set cameras up in our apartment, and then made me think, well, maybe she just couldn't hear hair, and that's how she figured it out. So, couple things from this. First, that Wednesday night, going to bed, feeling my freshly shaved head against the pillow was the weirdest sensation I had ever encountered up to that point. It was a very odd kind of feeling to have my head directly against the pillow. And then the next day was a Thursday, and I go into work, and I didn't tell anyone at work that I didn't know I was going to shave my head when I got home that day. So I go in to work, and people took a look at me. I was actually in very early, so people came in afterward, and they saw me. I remember my boss saw me and said, "Oh, dear Lord." And I said, "Yeah, I am never using that shampoo again." And so, yeah, but everyone kind of, they immediately said that they liked the new look, and I've stuck with it ever since. With one exception, I did grow what little hair I can grow back out for a stage show at one point, because I had to grow out sideburns, and I refused just sideburns. And I had to shave my goatee and mustache, and I refused to have just free floating sideburns and no other hair on my face. I was like, that's just not going to work for me. So I grew all the side out. The top, I mean, I've had to say goodbye to that forever. This stuff's never coming back here. So,
yeah, so like I have a beard. You guys know this.
Yeah, I see it. Yeah.
Yes. So like I want to keep the beard and shave my head, but where's the line? What do you do?
I would say that the line is right at the base of the earlobe. That'd be, or maybe a little, maybe in the middle, like right where your ear, like
So,
somewhere around
Eric,
that region is where I would go.
I want to know Eric's opinion, because he's like super quiet, having a cup of tea.
I am actually
Eric?
having a cup of tea. I don't know. I mean, I guess, yeah, that line would probably be somewhere around your earlobe. Why do you want to shave your head? That's really my question.
I'm losing my hair, and I want to like cut it short, and then just shave it bald, so it's not a huge jump, and I have to like tell the viewers this was happening. So,
well, I will
Jonathan,
say that if
you're an audio guy, so you don't have to
Yeah.
tell anybody this. Like, oh, Jonathan is bald.
Well, to be fair, I was bald when I started working at How Stuff Works. I mean, I've been shaving my head long before I started doing any kind of podcasting or video work. I had done some stage work, but I hadn't done anything else. So by the time, in fact, my friends that I have now, all of them, every single one of my friends has never seen me back when I had hair. They've only known me since I started shaving my head. To be fair, that's more than 15 years now. So, but they, none of my friends know what I look like back when I had hair. So it hasn't been that big of a transition for me. This is kind of how I am for most people. That's how they see me. They don't, if they were to see a picture of me with hair, to them, that would be the weird thing.
So Eric,
But I will say, sorry, go ahead.
hang on. Let me correct my shot. Eric, Mr.
I
Michael
that
J.
you got
Fox
this-
lookalike.
I love that that Iyaz's video in this particular episode. For those of you who aren't watching the video, you're missing out. But I like how for Iyaz's video in this one, it looks like it's a found footage film. This is all this shaky handheld cam kind of work.
Look at this garbage bag here.
I'm pretty sure this is a one of those deleted scenes from Coverville, or not Coverville. What am I saying? Cloverfield.
Not Cloverfield.
Yeah, I know.
What was the one on Mars? Not Mars, on the moon, where they never recovered all that.
Apollo 18. Apollo 18.
Awesome, terrible movie. Anyway, so Eric, as a
did we
person who
watch
has
that
never
for the
lost his
show?
hair,
Yes, we did watch it for the show. What was
Okay.
your question, Derek?
Eric, as a guy who's never lost his hair,
Sure.
what do you think on a daily basis?
What do I think on a daily basis?
That's
Oh, no, that was intentionally ridiculously vague. Go ahead.
What do I think about on a daily basis? I don't know. Usually I wake up and I think about breakfast. I let the dog outside. Think about
Do you
checking
think
my email.
do you
I
think
think
about letting the
I think
dog outside, or do you just do it?
actually, I probably don't think about it. It just kind of happens. I don't really know how he gets there. Like the time that happens between when he's outside and when I'm at my desk, I have no idea what's going on.
So this is
Uh,
kind of like the dog, right? When you leave the room and you come back and the dog it feels to the dog as if you've been gone for an eternity. It can't tell the difference between 5 minutes and 5 years. And so it's the same sort of thing for you. You let the
right,
dog out, you
exactly.
look and you say, how did the dog get outside?
That does actually. The sad part is that actually happened to me today. I let him out. It was the middle of the afternoon. I was walking around the house like, oh crap, I don't hear the dog. What is he doing? He must have gotten into trouble. Search the entire house and then open the door and he's standing there staring at me. So, yes, that totally happens to me all the time.
All right. So Eric doesn't think, is what we've established. He
No,
merely
I
reacts.
really it's most of this is pre-programmed. It
Yeah.
just
So he's the
just
pretty one.
happens. Yeah, there we go.
Thank you, Eric, for being the pretty one. That's
I
gonna be
knew it
our
wasn't.
new tag. Eric is the pretty one. That's gonna be the title of tonight's episode.
That's cool
Eric
with me.
is the pretty one. So,
I coming into this show, I knew it wasn't going to be me.
yes, I said you have the amazing bandwidth. I hate you.
So, did you want me to go into the other story you guys wanted me to tell for this evening, or do you have anything else you want to introduce before I dominate the entire podcast again?
Before we go into the Jonathan show, I want to talk about Time Warner Cable.
Please do.
Oh, go for
So
it.
at my place now, at this apartment, we have 100 down, 5 up. What kind of screwball world lets you do 5 up with 100 down? And they're gonna give us a complimentary upgrade to 300 down and 5 up soon.
What?
Yeah, it's Time Warner, and they're just. I want a term. Jonathan, you're good at words.
Okay.
Tell me what is a nice way of saying, like, these people at Time Warner cables, I say cables, suck donkey balls.
That's a pretty specific term already.
Yes,
donkey ball sucker is way up there.
As a very good writer, very good only. English, please.
How about well, I mean, this is a little more than what you were saying, but how about an equine scrotal masticator? That would mean they chew horse balls.
Okay, so that's a literal translation. What would you say in a figurative translation?
I would say actually they were what they were doing is they treat you as a consumer, not a producer. And they just assume that everyone who wants to use their network is just there to consume shit and not actually contribute in any meaningful way. And that is why you are stuck with a lousy uplink.
So,
Which
yes,
is, I mean, it's unfortunate.
So Time Warner is a bunch of masticating equine.
It was equine scrotal masticators.
I think we hit the
donkey
SEO
balls.
on this one.
Well, I mean, all right. So you
That's
said
chewing,
figuratively.
though.
I
It's
think
not sucking.
no. I did say chewing. Yeah. So how about we just say that they are ass munches? Because they're donkeys. So
I defer.
ass being another word for it. But no, I mean, that is pretty ridiculous. It's weird to think that there are so many different tiers, but none of them affect how much you can, send up the stream. It's all just how fast can you get stuff down the stream. That's definitely irritating. I suppose, did you look into doing a business account as opposed to a regular customer account?
I haven't yet. I will soon. But right now, as you can see, my lighting is garbage. And I joke a lot about this, but we're gonna do an Indiegogo here. I kid not, and we're gonna actually have a video, and I need freaking lighting here because that lamp
So wait.
there.
You're
Yeah.
doing an Indiegogo for your apartment?
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
No.
What's the Indiegogo for?
For a couple of podcasts.
Oh.
Because I need to do content, and I'm losing my mind. I'm going to do content. So I have a nice brick wall. You haven't seen it yet. I have a beautiful brick wall, and I'm going to do a bunch of shows.
Groovy. But yeah, for that
yeah.
you're gonna need some decent bandwidth, and not to
Yeah.
mention lighting and all that kind of stuff. So what happened to did you get rid of all the stuff you had back in back on the West Coast, all the equipment?
Most of it, but the thing about the lighting is it didn't actually have a good enough throw, so it's not practical for this actual application. So
Gotcha.
it worked, but not for this stuff. So we're going to be doing new shows here in New York, and it's going to be different. So So if you watch this show, and if you actually on Twitter, by the way, I had somebody on Twitter saying, "I saw you at Starbucks. Say hi. It's okay. Just say hi."
Yeah.
Not
Don't worry. I mean, Iyaz is gonna hate you whether you say hi or you don't say hi. So you might as well go ahead and take the plunge.
Yeah, like I'm seriously miffed and irritated right now at 2:30 every day when I get coffee. So just come by, say hi.
Yeah. You're not gonna make his day worse. So all right. Are you
now,
able to?
hang on. Now it's time for the Jonathan show. Go ahead.
No, wait, hang on, Iyaz. Before we do that, is there anything you can talk about these proposed podcasts, or is it too early?
No, I'm seriously going to do the dinosaur show again, and we're going to do Liz and I are going to do the dinosaur podcast shows. Dinosaurs Before They Were Fuels show with paleontology. Oh Jesus.
I am so sorry that I made you say multisyllabic words.
Yeah, this is not the Indiegogo video, so please don't use this for the Indiegogo. It's paleontology news. Like we're gonna be talking about dinosaurs and the.
I love that you can have breaking news for shit that died millions of years ago.
I know, but you know what? Everybody says this, right? Let's go to my single here. Everybody says this whole freaking thing. There's no news with dinosaurs. When we were kids, dinosaurs had no feathers, right? And like T-Rexes stood up like this. And now that we're older, they stand like this, and raptors have feathers. It's not about breaking news. It's the idea that science tells you what the reality is. And to me, that's fascinating.
No, that's really cool.
The reason why I actually do this show at all is because I wanted to watch it. That's the only reason why I do this show. I want to watch this show, and I want to know the changing reality of dinosaurs, because the Brontosaurus was a dinosaur when we were kids, and that fucker
actually
isn't.
To be fair, the Brontosaurus was not a dinosaur by the 1960s, but a lot of books just kept that around way longer than it needed to. You're talking about an Apatosaurus.
Yeah. The Apatosaurus is awesome, but the Brontosaurus is basically like Pluto. Like, it's cute, and you think it's a planet, but that motherfucker ain't a planet. It's not a dinosaur. It's not a planet. Nothing like it. So
like it's not a planet. No, it is not.
Right, exactly. So like our definition change to the reality of what's going on, and like what's a torosaur? A torosaur is actually a baby triceratops, very different than being a totally different species. So like this kind of evolving science, I love that. So that's why I want to do this show. That's why I enjoy it, because I want to watch that. And as drunk as I am, I fucking care about dinosaurs because I think they're cool since I was a little kid. So, hey, give us money later on.
Okay. All right. Cool. It does sound like an interesting show. I will not stop giving you shit about it, but it does sound like an interesting show.
Yes, please give me shit about it. Correct me all you want, Mr. How Stuff Works, Mr. Tech Stuff.
Dinosaurs aren't really my field. That's not my expertise.
Why is that not? I'm gonna write in for tech stuff about dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Because,
You want a tech stuff episode about dinosaurs?
Yeah, I listen to this show. This is not me
I-
being nice.
I record the show, so you know.
Yeah, like you should do an episode about dinosaurs.
A tech stuff episode about. I mean, we could do one about paleontology.
You know what? Here's the deal: the technology of understanding the animal behavior aspects of dinosaurs, because to understand
Gotcha.
how they move, is very, very intriguing. So, like T-Rexes, we all thought they stood like this, but they move like this. They have a scavenger behavior.
By
They
the
have a
way, all of
predator-
that is going to be amazing for the audio podcast listeners.
So
They look
I
like
was-
this, but they move like this.
They look like this. About what's this angle, Jonathan? Like what? Like 15 degrees?
What?
15?
That's not 15 degrees.
And then 45.
Okay, but you were closer to like 75, 80 degrees for the first one.
Okay, on that axis. Okay, fine.
Yes.
So let's go with that. So like, our idea of how they behaved is very different from what actually happens. The amount of energy involved in getting prey, like a T-Rex. Like we watched Jurassic Park, a T-Rex wasting their time with a human being. The energy expenditure is so high that they wouldn't care about you. You're like this big. You're like this big,
Yeah.
being about the size of an ant. That's for the audio listeners. And it bothers me to no end to think that, like, oh, these monsters would attack us. It's like, no, they wouldn't. You're like this big, tiny, a millimeter big. You're an ant. You're like
I understand. I understand all that. I'm not sure again where the tech angle is. I mean, we all understand that dinosaurs had pretty limited technology. Their internet was shit, worse than Time Warner.
The tech angle is the animal behavior aspect of learning about their motion to find out what they're willing to do.
Gotcha. Well,
That's
we
the
will
tech angle.
we'll consider it. I mean, that does sound more like a stuff to blow your mind episode.
Yes.
That's
So maybe
our
I will
science
write
show.
I might write in to say, like, so tell me about what's another dinosaur?
Well, you know, if you
Did
do
you
write in
recommend-
if you write in and I read your email, you know I'm going to mispronounce your name on purpose.
Totally fine. I'm not gonna talk about AT&T. I want a tech stuff episode about MCI.
Okay. Well, again,
You
you
want
need
a
to write
dinosaur? I have a dinosaur for you. MCI.
in. MCI. That's pretty good.
Yep.
Yeah, write in.
Anyway,
You have
I
to
have
send in
talked
the
far too
email
much.
address.
go ahead.
Actually,
At
right
tech
now
stuff.
I don't think our email address is working right now, so you'll probably need to send the request in via Twitter or Facebook. Because our email address, we just, Discovery sold How Stuff Works to a company called Blue Cora, and we ported all the email over, but the tech stuff email address has yet to be created for reasons that no one can really explain to me. So we've been patiently waiting for our email address to be established. Maybe I'll bug the IT guy about that tomorrow and see if we can get that on the fast track, because it's a little weird. At the end of the episodes, I've just been telling people to contact us on Twitter, Facebook, and Tumblr because our email address has been taking so long to get implemented. I'm not sure what the holdup is, but yeah. So you could try and send an email. The address would be techstuff@howstuffworks.com, but chances are you get a little bounce back at the moment.
So Eric, do you want to promote anything?
I have like 0 to promote right now. Let's see. I got VidPresso. I'm actually wearing the shirt today, but I'm lazy, and it's like super hot in my room. So that's
You
kinda
you
why
look
I'm
like you're a
quiet.
little shiny,
Yeah.
man.
the whole concept of swamp coolers is not working right now.
So, but your humidity is low, right? Because otherwise, swamp coolers don't work at all.
Yeah, no, there's like
Yeah.
no humidity today. It's just my swamp cooler has ceased to work.
It's just overwhelmed. Yeah. Well, here in Atlanta, we've got the heat and the humidity, so that means that every afternoon or evening we tend to have these little pop-up thunder showers. So it'll be a day where it looks beautiful early on, although it's really freaking hot. But then by the time I'm walking home, there's a good chance I get caught in a thunderstorm. So I think I'm gonna just have to suck it up and carry an umbrella with me just in case all the time until the summer is over, because it's really hard to predict when that's going to happen. You can get these isolated thunderstorms that'll pop up in one tiny little part of Atlanta, and the rest of the city will be completely untouched. So, but you'll be drenched. And of course, the worst part of it is that. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say the looking pretty problem. That's a problem here year round, mainly because in the winter you'll look outside, and since there's not much greenery anyway, you'll look outside and it looks gorgeous, and then you realize it's 10 outside.
Yeah. Yeah. Here, the worst part here is that the humidity is so high that you'll sweat, but the sweat will never evaporate off your skin because the air is already saturated with moisture.
Oh yeah.
So it just accumulates and it's not pleasant.
No, the first time I ever went to, I think I was in like South Carolina, and I walked out like in the middle of July and was just immediately drenched in sweat. I was like, oh, yeah, I'm never moving here. No, this won't do.
Yeah. We got the swamp thing down. So are you guys ready to hear about a battle royal?
Go for it.
Hell yeah.
All right. So, Iyaz, I like your enthusiasm. All right, so there used to be a show here in Atlanta, an improvised comedy show about wrestling, and it was called Brawl, Brawl, and they had the Brawl Sportatorium, and it was a bunch of wrestling fans who were improvisers, improvisational comedians, and they would do this kind of mock-up of a wrestling show, which was, of course, mostly focused on things like cutting promos and accusing each other and stuff, and very little of it was focused on wrestling. So, kind of like WWE Raw, and they played on all the different cliches of professional wrestling. Well, at the end of the first season, they had their first pay-per-view, which, as I recall, was sponsored by Skittles, so they called it Taste the Painbow. And the gimmick was that the last match of the night was a fatal four-way match between three of the wrestlers who had been established throughout the season, and a fourth one picked from the audience. So they picked me, and I went backstage, and they had to figure out what wrestler I was going to be. And I said, all right, I'll be the grammarian. I correct other wrestlers' grammar. And the way this improvisational comedy show worked was that at the end of a quote-unquote match, each of the wrestlers had to say what their finishing move was. And they had the guys doing the announcing had stolen a whole bunch of, well, didn't steal. They came up with a lot of the same ideas I had, like the dangling participle or the comma splice. So my finishing move ended up being the independent iron claws. And didn't win, so I didn't become the champion. But 4 years later, when they got to the final season of Brawl, they decided for the last show, they wanted to have a battle royal that included every single wrestler who had ever been on the show. And I asked the guy, I was like, do you want me to show up too? I mean, I was only ever in that one episode. He's like, no, I want you in there. So they... the way the show worked was that the first half of the show was inside the theater, as it always was. And what the audience didn't know was that while they were in the theater, a ring crew set up an actual wrestling ring in the parking lot outside the theater. So after intermission, everyone was told to go outside, and they did the rest of the show in an actual wrestling ring out in the parking lot. So the second to last match was this battle royal match. And I was in there, and so they had like all these actual wrestling school wrestlers, people who really were, taking bumps and doing moves. And then they had all the idiots, all the improvisational comedians, and me running around and attempting not to get squashed by people 4 times our size. So I wrestled for a little bit, did a couple of little moves with a couple of other idiots, took a bump, and then got out of the ring before I was going to get my skull crushed. So that was my battle royal experience. Later on that night, I saw a good friend of mine who had become the top heel of the company hit the top face of the company over the back with a flaming folding chair. So this was a pretty involved event by the time it finished. It's kind of funny because when it all started off, the way they would simulate matches is just use little action figures. And by the end of it, all the improvisers had actually gone through wrestling training and were taking bumps, actual bumps, as part of this improvisational comedy show. So fantastic. I'm really sad that that last show, they decided that was it. They were retiring the idea of the show forever because they said there's no way they were ever going to top that last show. So they wanted to go out on top and not, drag it on and never live up to that moment. So we'll never see it again, which is really unfortunate. But that's when I was in a battle royal. I stunned you into silence.
I don't.
Yeah.
Did Iyaz drop?
He might have. He may have dropped to the floor. He's
so excited he's passed out in his closet now.
Yeah, he'll have to listen to the show later. Yeah, it was a funny event. I mean, I actually feel there he is.
There he is.
Was it like a liability issue? Like, why did they stop letting you guys do that?
They didn't stop us for liability. The reason why they stopped doing it was because that last show was so incredibly over the top. I mean, they had genuine good wrestling matches with like some high impact moves in it. People were taking some pretty crazy bumps. There was fire involved. I mean, this was stuff that technically, I'm sure if the fire marshal or police had gotten involved, they would have shut us down. But the reason they stopped is because they said they could never top that. And since they couldn't top it, they didn't want to try and just keep going. So they retired it. One of the two guys behind it, his name's Scott Warren. He was one of the ensemble members of the theater. He's since moved on. He's doing other stuff. He's performing in other theaters, and I haven't actually seen him at this theater in quite some time. And it was funny because he was playing essentially the JR role. And the other guy who was behind it, his name's Travis. He was playing the Jerry the King Lawler role, although his character was the Popekowski, and he wore a big old Pope hat. And I can't remember what his finishing move was called. It was some vaguely Catholic sounding finishing maneuver.
Excommunication. I like the excommunication's coming down.
It was something like that, actually. Yeah, it was something like that, and it was a submission move. They had real wrestlers occasionally show up to this show, like the Iron Sheik showed up. Of course, he would do anything for a paycheck, I guess. But he showed up and put one of them into the camel clutch. Glacier from the old WCW days, he showed up and trained one of the wrestlers to get up into fighting shape. So yeah, it was a ridiculous show. I mean, even more so than your typical pro wrestling show. But you could tell at the same time that the people who were behind it really loved pro wrestling, but they also weren't afraid to make fun of it. So it was a fun mix. And yeah, I had a great time in the two matches that I ever got to participate in. But falling on a ring was an interesting experience. Being flung against the ropes, interesting experience. Would not want to repeat it, but it was interesting.
Eric?
So Eric, how many times have you been in a match?
I have never been in a wrestling match before, nor do I own any wrestling outfits or masks. So I apologize. I cannot relate.
Considering your proximity to Mexico, that's got to be against the law or something, right?
It's true. Actually, there is a great store like a couple blocks away that sells tons of Mexican wrestling masks, and they're all fantastic.
Yeah, I do love a good wrestling mask, especially one if you walk into a store and you realize that there are a lot of designs there that are not repeated over and over again. So it's not like you're buying, one off a shelf and there's 40 more of the same one behind it. Yeah. Yeah, that's nice.
There's places you can find them all over the place, and I guarantee you they're all hand painted.
All right, I got another question for you guys, just totally random, unrelated, but it has to do with a movie. it's actually a two-part question. Have either of you read the book World War Z, and have either of you seen the movie World War Z?
I read the book. I haven't watched the movie. I just noticed it came out on Amazon and Netflix, though. So
Yeah. So Iyaz, you haven't
probably
done
watch it
either?
soon.
Yeah, no to both, but I've heard things how inconsistent the movie is with the book.
Yeah, the movie has
And
almost the movie
that's why
has
I
almost
haven't
nothing
watched the
to it.
movie yet. It's because that's what I've heard, and I read the book and really enjoyed the book. But
Yeah, the book is fantastic, Iyaz. You should definitely pick it up. It's an incredibly fast read.
yeah, you get through
because
it in
it's
no time.
yeah, it's done as a series of interviews with various survivors of the World War Z, this whole zombie apocalypse and the aftermath. And it's essentially a reporter who has collected all these various interviews. The reporter's voice is barely in the book at all. You would occasionally get a chapter where the reporter asks a few questions and those get inserted, but most of the entries are just kind of like a monologue from a specific interviewee's perspective. And it really covers the whole era of the early days of the contagion and how people reacted to it, to the United States reaction, to learning the most effective means to deal with the issue, to recovery. And it's really a cool idea. Like it's kind of exploring, what would be a likely scenario if this crazy thing actually happened. And it's really, a lot of it rings very true, particularly the stuff like the way the United States would have handled it. But highly recommend it. It's incredibly good read. I watched the movie the other day, and I posted about this, but I think I would like the movie more if it had been named something else, because the only thing that it has in common with the book really is the title and the fact that there are zombies in it. And even their zombies are different. Their zombies are more like the rage virus infected in 28 Days Later. They're fast zombies. The book version is the shambling zombie. The danger of the book version zombies is that they are never ending and their numbers will eventually overwhelm you. It's not that they move fast, it's that they never stop. And every time they encounter people, their numbers grow. So that's the threat in the book. The movie takes it in a very different way, where these creatures can run and jump and chase you down, and they move in a very bizarre, like unreal way, which is a little bit problematic. But if you can get past that stuff, if you can get past the fact that it's called World War Z and you just watch it as a zombie movie, it's okay. I wouldn't call it great, and it has some there's one major plot hole that I couldn't really get past. Which, and I guess, I mean, if you guys don't mind, I can go ahead and spill it. It's not necessarily a spoiler. It's just one of those things that's a leap in logic.
Spill it.
So Brad Pitt's character realizes early in the movie that the time from infection to turning into a zombie is approximately 12 seconds. That's about how long it takes. As soon as you're bitten, within 12 seconds, you have turned. And then later he encounters some soldiers who talk about how when they first encountered the contagion, and they were essentially one of the earliest groups to encounter it, it was more like 10 or 15 minutes. Which raises the question, how the hell did this thing spread across continents and oceans? Because in the book, one of the main problems is that if you are bitten, the symptoms don't start showing up necessarily, except maybe a day or two later, or maybe 3 or 4 days or a week, which gives you plenty of time to go and get on a plane and fly to another continent before you turn. So that explains how the zombie virus spreads so effectively. It's that people did not know what was going to happen, and the authorities didn't know, so they weren't able to contain it. And so it spread very, very quickly because people were able to get on planes and go to their home and then spread it there. So you had this massive outbreak. In the movie, they talk about planes being the perfect delivery system, but if it at maximum takes you 15 minutes to go from bite to zombie, you wouldn't even get through an airport, much less on a plane, right? There's no way that zombies would be able to spread across oceans in that model. It doesn't make any sense. And so that was the problem I had, was that the infection to conversion was so fast that it made the premise of the film not make so much sense. But other than that, and other than the fact that it's a movie where if you are Brad Pitt, you're in great shape. If you happen to be within 10 feet of Brad Pitt, you're gonna die. That was that got a little irritating after a while, but it's worth watching. I watched the unrated cut. I have no idea how different that is from the cinematic cut, but I watched it the other day on Netflix, and it was, I would give it like a tentative recommendation. I don't think it was fantastic, but it was a decent zombie movie. Probably a little better than Cockneys versus Zombies.
It's not too hard to be better than that, but
No.
That wasn't
No,
bad.
No, it wasn't bad. Shaun of the Dead. The problem with Shaun of the Dead had set the bar so high, and this movie so wanted Cockneys versus Zombies so wanted to
Yeah.
be Shaun of the Dead. See, whereas World War Z really wants to be 28 days later, except instead of it being 28 days later, this is 1 day later. So you're seeing, how it's actually unfolding. It's not, it's not someone waking up after this whole event has already run its
Right.
course through most of human population. But yeah, go ahead and check it out. It's, it's not a waste of time. It's got some interesting ideas. I will also say that there is a very obvious liberal agenda in that movie. Like, it's not even remotely disguised. But I'm a pink Okami liberal, so it's okay for me. I wasn't irritated, other than the fact that it was very ham-fisted.
So, next time on Podcast of the Pretense.
So I've got an idea for World War Y.
Nope. Not doing the show. Too drunk. Nope.
I got nothing. I'm dead today.